Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Paws Postgame show between FIU and FAU. I'm Jay Gibson, host of the Paws podcast, and final score for this game is FAU 38, FIU 20. If you might be thinking that the game was closer than it actually was, but let me tell you, it was not. Where do I even start? FIU's offense looked okay in the second half. The problem is FAU's offense also looked okay, so they couldn't really make up any ground to get back into the game. So that's a bummer. I almost forgot to click go live for the Instagram viewers. There we go. So let's just go through some basic stats right now. If anyone wants to leave any comments, any criticisms, any suggestions, please feel free. I'm taking a look at the comments as we speak, so if y'all want to ask a question or just vent a little bit, this would be a good opportunity to do so, because we're going to be back on high spirits next week for our Paws Up preview of Monmouth, which will be what is the exact date? On Saturday the 21st. I believe it's either 6 or 7 p.m. I'll check back on that later. So anyway, let's start with FAU. Cam Fancher, 14 for 26, 161 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. All of FIU's touchdowns today came on the ground. Zuberi Mobley had 3 touchdowns, 134 yards. He balled out. Fancher himself got a rushing touchdown. C.J. Campbell with the other. Receiving-wise, FAU did not have a good game, and I guess that's one of the biggest positives you could say about FAU tonight is that their secondary looked pretty solid. They clamped down a lot of FAU's receivers for the majority of the second half. I mean, C.J. Campbell got 59 receiving yards, which is actually hails in comparison to what FIU was able to do. I see that the connection is not great, so if something goes wrong here, just let me know as far as connection goes. Hopefully that'll just be a temporary issue. Anyway, I really can't say much about FAU's offense and say they were exemplary tonight. Funnily enough, Robbie of FAU Owl's Nest warned us that if FAU were to win, their running game were to pop off, and that's exactly what happened. They had 259 rushing yards, and obviously all of their touchdowns came on the run. So definitely a major blow for FIU's defensive line, and they're just general rush defense, which looked okay against Central Michigan and looked great in the first half. Definitely suffered a lot in the second half, and it shows, So, however, they only had how many passing yards? 161, which in the grand scheme of things was not great for FAU. Take a look at some of the other statistics here. Both teams, funnily enough, had the same amount of first downs at 22 each. FAU had the ball for 37 minutes and FIU for only 22. So if you thought the Panthers could get back into this game in the second half, you'd be mistaken solely on the fact that they barely had any time with the ball in the second half. So sucks to see. The connection's bad again. Connection earlier today was actually really good for FAU, but it's starting to might be starting to go here in the end of game. But we'll stick it out, see what happens. Okay, so Kewan Jenkins tonight went 21 for 35 for 281 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I believe his career high in passing yards was somewhere in the 290s, so he actually got more closer to that than I would have guessed. But at the same time, he threw 3 interceptions in this game. Overall, I think it was a pretty bad night for Jenkins. Granted, he did step it up in the second half. He actually looked quite good, but it was too little too late. Lexington Joseph, 37 yards for 7 carries. Overall, I'm not too surprised that he was the leading rusher, but still only 87 yards rushing for FIU. So give credit to FAU's running defense, who really struggled against Army, really stepped it up today against FIU. I still keep mixing up the two. I think I understand now why FAU wants to get rid of that acronym. Eric Rivers had a great game today. 4 catches, 101 yards. I believe that's a career high. Kevin, if you're in the chat, fact check me for that. And a touchdown, the first touchdown of the game. Dean Patterson wasn't too far behind. 5 catches, 79 yards, and a Panther yards. We're good. So 281 receiving yards total for FIU. That's not bad, but the majority of that came in the second half when, again, it was too little too late. The biggest problem of the day for FIU, FIU did a lot of things wrong today, but if I had to narrow it down to one thing, I would say it was how sloppy they were with the ball. 3 interceptions for Kewan, and then a fumble by Kewan and another by Dean Patterson. That's 5 total. That's just not good enough. It's not good enough. It's near impossible to win any game when your offense is turning the ball as much as FIU did tonight. I don't have the exact number on me, but I believe either 17 or maybe 20-something of FAU's points tonight were scored off of turnovers as well. So that just kind of goes to show how much the Owls just capitalized on FIU's mistakes, similar to how FIU capitalized on Central Michigan State mistakes last week. So looking at some more things here and there, I had a couple of things I wanted to point out. I already talked about Eric Rivers. He had a good night. He might be our player of the game, low-key. Who was the leading tackler for FIU? We talked about it earlier. I believe it was it Barnes? Yeah, it was Travion Barnes, 15 tackles, 8 solo. He had a very good night. CJ Christian also did good, 9 tackles, 5 solo. There was 1 sack registered by FIU's defense. It's weird. Eddie Walls, this is ESPN's box score. Eddie Walls was granted half a sack, but the total sacks still add up to 1, which is a bit strange, but we'll roll with it. And I believe no turnovers on the night for FAU. I mean, after FIU caused, I believe, 6 turnovers against Central Michigan, they were not able to do so at all tonight. So there you have it. They became Central Michigan, funnily enough, in this game, as far as making mistakes and not doing anything to respond. Overall, it's just a very disappointing night for the Panthers. I know there's a lot of negative FIU fans who's been sort of hovering around the Barstool sideline accounts. The season's not over, okay? And let me explain why really quick. We currently stand with a 1-2 record. We're going to take on Monmouth, a really bad FCS team. There are good FCS teams, and there are bad FCS teams, and Monmouth is on the lower end of the spectrum. They beat them, which hopefully, fingers crossed, they'd split the non-conference series 2-2. Then they would take on some of the more bottom-of-the-barrel Conference USA teams, such as Louisiana Tech, UTEP, New Mexico State, and arguably Middle Tennessee. So there's definitely a road FIU can take where they can get to that 6-win mark, make a bowl game. It's not going to be easy. They really need to work on a lot of the mistakes they made tonight if they want that to happen. I would say don't panic yet. That's all I can really say. Is not to panic right now, although I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to. Look at some final things here. I did have a couple of notes jotted down, but all right. Connection's not great. Apologize for that. The FAU Wi-Fi was actually working good earlier today. I guess it's sort of taken a hit as people have left, which is a little bit strange, but I digress. Overall, the crowd here tonight at FAU Football Stadium was pretty electric. A lot of FAU fans who weathered out that storm, and FIU traveled pretty well. But all in all, it hurts hearing that Pitbull music in the second half, which, come to think of it, I probably should have expected as soon as they announced that it would be called Pitbull Stadium. Anywho, so I think I'll leave it at that. Final score tonight, FAU 38, FIU 20. As I'm pulling up some stuff here. So next week, FIU will take on the Monmouth Hawks of the CAA. That is the same conference that houses the Delaware Blue Hens. So I guess something to keep an eye on. Just because I have a bit of time here, can do a quick fact check. Monmouth is currently 1-2 on the season. They lost to both Eastern Washington and Lafayette, but did destroy Maine earlier today by a score of 51-22. We actually do have a guest lined up for that. That is, I believe we have Stephen Edelson hopping on our Paws Up preview this upcoming week. Stephen Edelson is the beat writer for Monmouth Hawks for the Gannett, New Jersey. Let me make sure I get this right. Don't want to butcher this. And we welcome Stephen Edelson. So Stephen Edelson is the beat writer for Asbury Park Press. I believe it is a local newspaper outlet in New Jersey. He's the beat writer for Monmouth. He's done great content for them, and we're happy to have him on this upcoming week. If everything holds true, our Paws Up preview for FIU and Monmouth should drop on Friday night, as we've been doing. By the way, we really appreciate the reception that the previews have been getting on Friday nights. This one for FAU did really well. So thank you to both the FIU and I'm assuming FAU fans as well that helped out with that. So as far as episode 70 goes, I'm sure some of you are wondering, I think we have our guest. We've been really looking to get an awesome guest for episode 70. I think we landed him, but I don't know when we're going to record. So I'll leave you at that. I think we're putting up enough content with these previews anyway. And just generally speaking, this was the first road contest we've been able to cover for FIU football. Obviously, we've gone to the University of Miami a few times for baseball and basketball, and those have been fun, but kind of hits different when you get to go on the road and you're credentialed for football games on the road. This was my personal first ever trip to here. I think it was my first time ever in Boca, if I'm not mistaken. But it's been fun. And I will say, as much as I dislike FAU, the people here at their very lovely press box have been kind. FAU Owl's Nest has also been kind. I'm not going to enjoy the memes and crap posts that I'm assuming they're pumping out now, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, we had a bunch planned as well. So it is what it is. Going to have to wait for next year, and then maybe the year after, and then maybe the year after. All right, everyone. Your final score, FAU 38, FIU 20. Catch us for our Paws Up preview this upcoming Friday night. And, have a great rest of the night. It's already tomorrow. Would you believe it? And Paws Up. Always.